Hello. So today we have another lesson. Today's lesson is called Atoms, Elements, and Compounds. Oh, where's my tools? Uh-oh. Um, well, we'll keep going. So our learning targets today are to be able to identify atoms, molecules, elements, and compounds. Basically, it's a vocabulary lesson, okay? So as a starter, I want you to think about this for now, but then I'll ask you tomorrow or next lesson in class whether these statements are true or false. So, is it true that pure gold is made up of three kinds of atoms? Okay. Is it true that the smallest unit of matter is called an atom? And is it true that elements are made when atoms are combined? So, throughout the lesson, you're going to want to think about this. And then next class, we will start with this together. And you can give me your answers of true or false. Moving on, we've got a couple of key words. So, we've got particles here. Particle you should already have in your notebook. So, if you've already got it, you don't need to write the definition again. But remember, a particle is the smallest piece of any one substance that we have. Okay. So it's a small piece that makes up matter. We represent it usually in the form of a dot. What we're going to learn today is what an atom is, what an element is, what a compound is, and what the periodic table is, this lovely thing here. Okay. Some of you might be familiar with these already. And you can see from the picture here, we've got a picture that shows elements, compounds, and mixtures. In a future lesson, we're going to look at mixtures. So, what I would like you to do is to write those words at the top of your notes page. And then as we go through the lesson, you're going to want to write the definition down. Okay? So pause the video if you need to write those down and then keep going. So, there are millions of different materials in the world all around us. Everything that has mass and takes up space is matter. And all of those things, the clothes that you're wearing, your hair, earrings, the clock behind me, that side, whichever, there we go. These are all made up, interestingly enough, from the elements that are on the periodic table. So matter is made up of particles. It's the small piece or part of matter, right? So we've looked at those. We've drawn them several times. We've looked at what happens to the particles when they're in a solid, when they're in a liquid, when they're in a gas. Okay? We're going to give that particle a new name. Now, what's interesting is a particle, there's different types of particles that we can have. So the first type of particle that we can have is called an atom. An atom is the smallest part of an element that still behaves like that element. So this is where the periodic table will come in handy. And all atoms of the same element are identical. So it's like if you made a clone of yourself, all of those would still be you. Like they would give them, that would be your name, and all of them would still be you. Okay? So an element is made up of only one type of atom. Okay? And that atom is going to look kind of like this. So for example, we've got copper here. You can see it's like the big orange dot. All copper atoms will look exactly the same. Okay? And copper is made up of only this type of atom. Right beside it, we have carbon, which is another element on the periodic table. And carbon is made up of all of these little black particles. Okay? All of these atoms are carbon atoms, and they are all identical. So basically what we're doing is we're calling the particles of this element an atom now. For a few of you, you'll want to look ahead and look at atoms and maybe even what is in atoms, but for this year, this is what you need to know. Okay? So If a substance is made up of only one type of atom, so all of these little particles, all of these atoms here are identical, then it is called an element. Okay? We can also have substances like, for example, cloth, that are made up of more than one type of atom. So the atoms are not identical, like you can see here. And those atoms together, there's a couple of things that will happen, but for us today, we're going to look at when you have different atoms attached together that are, so different, that they create what we call a compound. Okay? So elements is like this first picture here where it's all orange. All of the particles, all of the atoms are orange. They're all identical. So it is an element. The other side here where we have brown, we have purple, we have blue, we have red, we have yellow, we have kind of golden particles. They are all different. They're not identical. So this is not an element. Okay? The periodic table is actually the list of all of the elements that we have in the world so far. Okay, so these are all the ones that have been discovered. And right now there is a total of 118 elements. On the periodic table, you get a symbol, you get the name, and you get some other information about the element that you'll learn about later on. Okay, so each element is given a name and a symbol. For example, carbon is over here. Carbon is a C. So you can see the capital C and then you see carbon. Chlorine is another one. So any of you that swim in the pool, you are familiar with chlorine. Okay, chlorine goes by the symbol capital C with a small L. We've also got a few others that are very common. So oxygen, capital O, hydrogen, capital H, helium, that's in balloons, HE, okay, neon right below it for neon signs. The first letter of an element or an element's symbol has to be a capital, okay? We'll practice this in class together. So, just as a review, an atom is the smallest building block of matter. It is a particle, okay? But sometimes those particles combine together. And when they join together, they become what we call a molecule. Now, a molecule can be two atoms of the same element together, like oxygen and oxygen, or it could be two elements or two atoms of different elements together, like oxygen and hydrogen. Okay? If they are, a molecule includes all of them. The third type here, and let me just move my camera a little bit out of the way. So you'll notice here we've got an atom which is on its own. Then in the molecule, my little picture thingy, there we go. The molecule has two atoms bonded together. In this case, they are the same. There is a third type though, and that third type is called a compound. Now, compound is when you have at least two different elements that are bonded together. So in this case, we have the red one, which actually represents oxygen, and we have the white ones, which represent hydrogen. So this molecule here, because it has more than two atoms joined together, it's a molecule. It is also a compound because we have two different elements in it. This one is actually water. Okay, so pause the video, write down your notes, and then we'll keep going. So compounds, let me move my camera again. Compounds have two or more different elements which are chemically joined or bonded together. So this is the compound of water, or a molecule of the compound of water. So you've got the hydrogen atoms, you've got the oxygen atom, and you've got another hydrogen atom. Okay? I want you to pause the video and think about, well, why are we using both the words molecule and compound for this one here, for water? So how can I use both words, molecule and compound? When you've got the answer, you can keep going. Okay? So, a molecule of the compound of water, it's called a molecule because it has two particles which are joined together. Okay? But it's also a compound because it has at least two different elements that are bonded together. All right? That's it for the notes today. So I want you to review what an atom is, a small particle or the smallest piece of any single element. An element is a substance that is pure. It has only one type of atom or particle, and they're all identical. A molecule is at least two atoms bonded together, and a compound is at least, I don't know why there was suddenly balloons there. A compound is at least two different elements bonded together. Okay?